Persona 5 first impressions. Where do I begin? Well, let's first off talk about Persona 5's writing, because this is probably first and foremost where it shines in the first 10 hours of the game. Now, Persona 5 is written very, very well. Its dialogue is written well, its characters are written very interesting, its story elements are written interesting, and there's always something going on that's keeping you interested. Persona 5 is the very first game to come along and make me question my own morals. No joke, I'm not going to spoil anything, but during the time with Kamoshida, who is a teacher at the school, he does a lot of things to the students that just come off as cruel. And it goes so much deeper than that, but without spoiling just a lot in the beginning chapter of what compels some of these characters through, I'm not going to, because it's so... people need to experience this themselves. But I've never once in a game been like, I am not okay with doing this. This is not right. How do you expect? How do you expect me to go out and do this? I can't. How? And you'll see what I mean when it gets to that point, but it does. It questions your morals inside of a video game. First and foremost, no game has been able to do that for me before. And the fact that Persona 5 is just able to come along and make me question if the actions that the characters are taking, the actions that I'm participating in, are right. It's deep, heartfelt, and thoughtful. And the characters this time around, that I'm still learning things about the characters. I'm still getting used to the characters and getting to know them. I can't say if they're better than Persona 4's characters. I've only spent 8 hours with the characters alone. But I feel the characters are written in very well. I feel like they still have motives. They still have reasons to be there. They still have their reasons that these personas awaken inside of the metaverse. But I'm really enjoying how well these characters are written in there, and there is even more of a focus this time around the bad guys that in Persona 5 than past Persona games. Persona 3 and 4, they had a center villain, and they didn't ever really express who that villain was in any specific way. But this time around, the villains are very, very character driven, and I'm just being able to deduct this just alone from Kamoshida. The guy's a dick. He's an A1 douchebag. That's the best way to put it. He's rude, and he does a lot of questionable things, and that's something you guys are going to have to experience for yourselves. Let's talk about its story. Its story is incredible so far. I'm really enjoying the setting of the story. It sets up the pace very well, gives you an introduction to the characters, gives you an introduction to the world, the story, and what's going on. Unlike Persona 4, rather than building up a little bit of a relationship with your friends, Persona 5 tosses you right into the action right at the beginning, as it throws you into Kamoshida's castle. This, of course, is where you learn of the metaverse, where you learn what's going on, kind of how you stumble across this world. At this point, there's still mysteries floating around this world and kind of how it came to be and everything that's going on there. But it's got the tone set up, and it is through these interactions in the metaverse that you learn a lot about your characters. So the story actually starts off with you doing a heist of sorts on something. I don't know if it's a real world dungeon, if it's a metaverse dungeon, but regardless to say, you end up getting caught by the cops. You're taken into an interrogation room where a couple of cops try to unsuccessfully interrogate you, while this other female detective comes in. Her name's Najima, and she tries to interrogate you and get information out of you. So as you're telling her the story about what's been going on, you're looking back over the past year, and the story goes back to start where the main character first came to Tokyo. And you also learn at this point that there's a traitor in the midst of somebody you know, but the game never says who it is. You just know that someone has stabbed you in the back, so to speak, and turns you into the cops. So there's this always overwhelming effect of what's going on. And it's interesting for a Persona game to actually go back and to do a look back and tell the story from present to past. Because a Persona game has never tackled that before. It's always been a story that happens during the present and then you follow the character as the events go along, not a look back as to what the character's been going through. There's so much more in the story that I want to try and explain, but I'm not even going to at this point. Just Kamoshida alone, it's something you need to experience for yourself. There is actually an event that happens that makes you hate him even more. It's like, my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. This is wrong. How is this guy gonna get away with this? And how is this guy getting away with this? And it's that moment that I said, I'm not spoiling it. You need to experience it for yourself, but it's moments like these that are making me enjoy its story. It is so well done. Let's talk about its combat. Persona 5 retains a lot of the same elements that past Persona games have. It still has the social links, so they're called confidants now. You still get stat boosts when leveling up personas, when fusing personas, when you spend time with your confidants and level them up. Your party members also gain new abilities as you level up your confidants. So it's very much the same in that aspect when it comes to Persona 5. Even its battle system is very familiar. Anybody who's played a Persona game is going to witness a very turn-based battle system. You still have your enemy weakness where you still down enemies. You actually have little quick buttons. If you know the enemy's weakness, you can use that right away. You have the ability to actually use a gun and fire and do more melee damage with the gun, but you are limited on bullets, so your gun is something you want to conserve. And the guns, I've realized, are also not the most accurate thing to use. A melee attack does significantly less damage than a gun, but you can always do a melee attack. It's very, very interesting. Now, what I thought was really, really cool was the way that Persona 5 set up how you actually enter battles. Entering battle is done very stealthily. They've added stealth mechanics to the game, and when I first heard about the stealth mechanics, I seriously thought, well, this is going to be stupid. How is this going to be incorporated very well into the game? It feels out of place. It's a turn-based RPG, but the thing is it doesn't. It feels natural. It goes along so well with the theme of the Phantom Thief sneaking around, not being detected, going around trying to ambush the enemies. It is great. And you do have to pay attention to your surroundings, so you'll definitely want to focus in on paying attention to what's going on rather than just blindly running in like an idiot and you're going to get caught. Because once that meter, you have a meter, a security meter, once that meter hits 100%, you're kicked out of the dungeon for the day. No going back in. So that's a day wasted for crawling into a dungeon. So it's something you want to focus on. And the last little bit I want to talk about the battle and gameplay mechanics is holding up enemies in battle. So once you've downed, if you've played any Persona game before, you know about Persona's all-out attacks. Once you've downed an enemy and caused all enemies to be focused down on the ground, you can step in and do a hold-up. At this point, you can select an all-out attack, you can demand money, you can demand an item, or you can hold them up and try to get them to join your ranks. This, of course, engages in combat. This, of course, engages in a conversation during combat, where you try to convince them why they should join you. And they'll ask you various questions, like your views on society and things like that. There's one that asks, I heard there's animal rights in your world. What would the animal right activists think of what you were doing to me? They're quirky things like that. I mean, there's nothing quite like holding a demon up while he's sitting on the shitter. No joke. It's very true. It's quite comical, to be completely honest. But it's things like that that just make Persona 5 so great. And even talking to demons isn't something new. Persona 2 has done it before, and it feels the same setup as Persona 2, but it's flawlessly put in there so well. it just feels natural in battle and adds that experience. It's much cooler than just receiving a random shuffle card that you can get at the end of battle to give you your persona. And this time around too, the dungeons seem to be more expansive and bigger. They're not randomly generated. There's actually a design set up to the dungeons this time. So in the past Persona games, well, I guess I'd say the past Persona games, Persona 4, I was able to complete the dungeons in one day. Was able to blow through them with relatively no challenge whatsoever, and just get them finished. Persona 5 is not that way. Persona 5, you actually almost have to come back to finish the dungeon. I mean, I sunk one day into the dungeon and the character was like, I still feel there's a lot to do. So I mean, I'm not even close to finishing the dungeon. I haven't even finished Kamoshida's dungeon yet, so I don't know how that plays out. And this is just my first impressions of being able to explore a little bit into Kamoshida's dungeon. But I am enjoying this game so much. If you have not picked it up, do it. I mean, first impressions have not let me down. It's everything I was expecting it to be. It's everything I expect from a Persona game. Great characters, great story, great writing, great gameplay. It just adds so much depth to this. It's clearly evident they took their time with this game. When it comes down to the story elements, when it comes down to the way that the menu looks, just there's so many animations. It's amazing how just little key thoughts that most people don't even think to do. I mean, it makes the menus in other RPGs look like shit because it's so stylized and it's so cool. Even your after battle screen is stylized in a certain way, and it just adds so much character to this game. And they didn't even have to do it. It wouldn't even deteriorated from the quality of the game. It really wouldn't have. It just adds so much of a visual style to this game that makes you respect the time and effort that Atlus has put into it. You can clearly tell that the reasons that they delayed this game so often is because they wanted to perfect it and make it this quality game, and that's what it is. If you're at all turned off by the fact that Persona 5 feels like a social simulator, it feels like a dungeon crawler, feels like that, if Persona 5 is not your type of game, there's something in here for anybody who enjoys RPGs. And explaining Persona 5 to somebody is not going to sell them on the fact. If you're at all curious about it, look up what gameplay you can without actually spoiling the story. Or just flat out go out and try it yourself. That is the best way to experience a Persona game, is just to try it. But Persona 5 has not let me down. I'm still looking forward to very much going back after making this video and playing some more of this game because it is incredible. You're going to learn more about my thoughts on how things play out in the final review. I'm going to do the very best I can to not spoil anything in the story. I'm going to keep a lot of the crucial moments out of the story when doing the review, but there are some things I may touch upon character-wise and things like that as time progresses on. These are my first initial thoughts of Persona 5. Your thoughts, your opinions, leave those all down below in the comment box. If you guys gotten a chance to play Persona 5, who's your favorite character so far that you have? I do ask for those who have not gotten as far as you to not put spoilers down in the comments. Please be kind to people who want to experience the story for themselves. Thoughts, opinions, leave those down below in the comment box. Be sure to hit subscribe there for me. New content will be coming your way. I upload every Friday. You can expect videos also in between the week as well, so it is best to follow me to get those new updates. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Links provided down below in the description. You guys are watching the Spoony Bard, and most importantly, stay happy, be happy, game happy. The Spoony Bard is checking out.